Welcome to the Observe Day podcast, the show where we celebrate the days that matter. From holidays to meaningful observances, we bring you inspiring conversations, stories, and ideas to make each day count. Whether it's raising awareness, learning something new, or simply sparking joy, this is your space to explore the calendar in a whole new way. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I'm excited to share today's observance with you. Let's dive in. Sean McManus is a Christian men's strength and nutrition coach and the founder of McManus Strength and Nutrition, a movement helping Christian men rebuild their strength, purpose, and leadership through faith, fitness, and discipline. Once striving in the corporate world, Sean reached a breaking point, burnout, disconnection, and quiet dissatisfaction. That moment became his divine wake-up call. He left behind the comfort of corporate success to pursue a deeper mission to help men rise from passivity, strengthen their bodies and minds, and lead their families with integrity and conviction. Today, Sean coaches high-performing men to overcome fear, self-doubt, and mediocrity, bridging biblical wisdom with modern fitness, mindset, and leadership strategies. His mission: to build stronger men who build stronger homes and communities. As we celebrate International Men's Day, Sean joins us to unpack what it truly means to be a man of strength, faith, and purpose in today's world. Welcome to the podcast, Sean.
Wisdom, is so great to be here, man. I appreciate you having me, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome to the podcast. Yeah. I'm curious. How long ago was the shift from a quite dissatisfied life to eventually doing what you love to do?
Yeah, so I left my corporate job about 2 years ago. Went through a period of time where I was just kind of bouncing around trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing, what God had called me to do. So I was doing a couple different things during that time. I was doing some sales, I was doing some home repair, some construction work, and then I was also doing coaching. And then about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I decided to go full on into coaching, and that is where we are now. That's been kind of I've definitely felt the fulfillment in the last year. So I know this is where God has called me. I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. So it's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah. How did the faith guide your decision to walk away from stability and start over?
Man, I definitely wouldn't have done it without faith, but there was a point in time when my wife got pregnant with our second child. I knew at that point that I was kind of on a time clock because we were pretty tight on finances already, and the job that I was at really didn't offer anything more. There was kind of nothing else for me to do there. So I knew that at that point I was like, okay, like that was God's way of quote unquote kicking me out the door,
Yeah.
and forcing me kind of forcing my hand a little bit because I knew that there was something else I was supposed to be doing. I just hadn't had the faith to make the jump. So he he kind of forced that on me, and I'm thankful for it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where it came in.
Wow. Uh, for men who feel stuck or burnt out right now, what are the first signs they need to reclaim their purpose?
So the first thing that I would do is just kind of evaluate your life, evaluate where you are, evaluate your day-to-day habits and routines, because oftentimes we get stuck in these daily routines and daily habits, and we don't really know why we do them. We just continue to do them. So first step in finding your purpose is just kind of look at your life now. What do you like? What do you not like? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? If, it's leading to something that you don't like or unfulfillment, whether that's in your marriage, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your friends or your community or your job, just kind of step out of the day to day for a minute and kind of get a higher point of view and ask yourself why you're doing the things that you're doing and why you're accepting kind of where you are in life. That would be first steps.
Oh, okay. To take an inventory and be aware of what is going on before you can start going towards the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have to kind of get a good idea of where we are because a lot of us, I think, we kind of in fear of failure, maybe, or fear of mistakes, we don't really take a look at where we are and ask ourselves why we do the things that we do because we're kind of scared of taking that responsibility.
Yeah.
So that's definitely the first step in kind of stepping into the man that you're called to be is taking responsibility for where you
Wow.
are and the actions that you need to take in order to move forward.
Yeah. Why do you believe physical fitness is a spiritual act of worship and leadership?
Good question. So there's a couple different ways we can look at it. The first one being, if you're a Christian, if you look at the world in a Christian worldview, everything that we have on this earth is from God. So everything, He owns everything, basically. We're just stewards of it. So that also includes our physical bodies. So He's given us these physical bodies as a gift, like this is what we're going to use to do the things that we do in the world, to walk around, to be active, to play with our kids. So it is up to us to steward those well because we don't own them. Eventually, we will give them back to Him,
Mm.
and it's up to us to steward those things well. So that's kind of the first piece. The second piece that I tell a lot of guys about is like, God has called you for something specific in this world. He makes each of us in His image, and He gives each of us kind of a unique purpose. And I don't ever want to be at the place to where, because I haven't taken care of my physical body, that I am physically incapable of doing what He's called me to do.
Oh,
So that's kind of the other piece that oftentimes ties in, because you really never know what God is going to call you to do. So along with stewarding what He's given you well and taking good care of it, there's the other piece of like, hey, what if he calls you to do something physical and you're not able to because you have not been stewarding your body well?
yeah. What about the leadership part?
Yeah, so the leadership part, taking care of your body in a physical aspect, well, physical, mental, and spiritual really, is a form of self-leadership. And self-leadership is one of those things, like, it is literally impossible for you to lead other people well if you don't first lead yourself well. So in the leadership aspect of it, it's having that self-leadership to be disciplined with your body, with your nutrition, with your exercise, with everything that you kind of intake, and then your outtake as well. It's up to you to lead yourself in that way, and that then qualifies you to lead others.
Yeah. Well, how can men integrate biblical principles into their daily routines of exercise and nutrition? Because now that you explain how physical fitness is an act of worship and leadership, it does make sense. And I want us to take it a little bit further. How can we begin to include biblical principles in ordinary things, as most people would see it as, like eating, exercise, and all those other things?
You mean tying it specifically to biblical principles?
No, or like bringing biblical principles in how we approach and how we do these things. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
okay. Yeah, it does. So we talk about bringing biblical principles in. We can go to that form of stewardship, that form of stewarding everything that we've been given well, and doing it for that reason versus doing it for vanity. There isn't anything wrong with wanting to look good. I think men should desire to look good and be physically attractive for their wives. So that's definitely a piece of that. But doing it from a place of like, I'm going to do this because it is my responsibility to steward my body well. I'm going to do this because, as a man, it is one of my roles is to be able to protect my family and protect those around me. So I have to take care of my physical body in order to do that. And then another way that we can bring it in is just discipline. Discipline is, looking at discipline as a biblical form. That's how we can tie it into physical fitness and nutrition as well.
Before we dive deeper, I'd love to invite you to join the Observe Day newsletter. Every week, I send you highlights of upcoming observances, creative ways to celebrate, and behind the scenes extras from the shows. It's the perfect way to stay inspired and never miss a meaningful moment. Sign up today at observeday.com/join. That is observeday.com/join. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Well, um, you often talk about honoring God with your body. What does that look like in practice for busy fathers and leaders?
Yeah, it's just kind of tying back to what we've already talked about. It's just, taking care of your day-to-day exercise. It's taking care of, what you're putting into your body, the fuel that you're feeding it, making sure that you are giving it good fuel versus, eating a bunch of junk and processed foods. But just taking care of what He's already given you.
Well, for a lot of men, they have this notion, right? Misconception, probably, that discipline feels too rigid or unspiritual. Yeah. What is your response to such thought process?
You said that disciplining your body is unspiritual.
You know that a lot of people, they have this they think, right? There are a lot of men who think that discipline, it feels too rigid or it's unspiritual. So my question is, what's your response to men who think that way?
Yeah, I mean, my response is it's all spiritual. The physical often imitates the spiritual. So having the discipline to take care of your body, your physical body, often imitates and shows that you also have the discipline to take care of your spirituality as well. If laziness and gluttony is showing up in your physical life, who's to say that it's not showing up in your spiritual life? That laziness, that lack of discipline, that lack of self control, who's to say that it's not showing up in your spiritual life as well?
Yeah. Well, you said leadership starts by leading yourself, right? And for me, I'm curious, what are some of the daily disciplines that shape a stronger, godly leader?
So, day to day disciplines would be being in the Word, studying His Word daily, being in prayer with Him, um, taking care of our body, doing that exercise, whether it's day to day or a few times a week, being consistent with the types of food, the good types of food that we put in our body, the fuel that we use to, fuel our bodies well. It would be getting adequate rest every night and making sure that, we're prepared for the next day and whatever that brings. Um, those are just a few that come to mind. Making sure that we stay hydrated is another physical thing. Being around, godly men, godly brotherhood that you can lean on when things are hard, sharing those burdens with them. That's a few of the daily disciplines that come to mind for me.
Yeah, well, in today's society, masculinity is mocked, right? And for me, how can Christian men, overcome fear, laziness, passivity, especially in a culture that often mocks masculinity?
So for me, it just starts with the fear of the Lord being more than your fear of man. So I think a lot of us, when we look at the culture, where masculinity is mocked, where you're made fun of for being a man, we do have this fear of not being accepted, and we have this fear of not being or being made fun of by culture. But it really just comes down to, like, God made you a man, and there are certain principles that you need to embody in order to take on that role well. And one of those is being bold. One of those is being courageous. So making sure that, like, I always want to make sure that my fear of him, my reverence for him, my desire to obey him outweighs the fear that I have of man, or the fear that I have of being made fun of, or anything like that. So just kind of reframing it and looking at it as like, okay, well, do I fear God more so than I fear man? I want to please him. Therefore, if it upsets someone else, it's okay. Because my first and foremost desire as a Christian is to obey my Father. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Um, uh, we talked about at the beginning of the episode, we started with physical fitness being an act of spiritual worship and leadership. And I want us to take it further, right? How does a man's physical and spiritual health impact his family dynamic?
Mm. We talk about impacting family dynamic. The first thing that comes to mind when we're talking about physical fitness or physical discipline is, we want our children, we want our wives to be disciplined, we want them to be in good physical shape as they grow up. I don't ever want my kids or my wife to, have some kind of health issues or health problems because they haven't taken care of their body. So that kind of comes back to the self leadership aspect, where it is up to me as the leader of my home to set the standard for my children and for my wife. So if I am not doing those things, I cannot expect them to do those things. So it kind of comes back to the age old adage of your kids will do what you do. They're not going to
Yeah,
do what you say.
yeah.
So it's just setting that standard in our homes of, hey, these bodies God gave us, we're going to steward them well. We're going to make sure that we're physically capable of doing whatever He has called us to do.
And what are some practical ways fathers can set a legacy of strength for their kids? Such that they have something to emulate.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes back to leading yourself well. It's that taking care of your body
Yeah,
day in and day out. It's that exercise, with consistency. Your kids are going to see you do that. And you can talk about it, and you should talk about it with your kids, but they're really going to latch on to that piece of watching you do it day in and day out, knowing that, daddy's going to exercise, or daddy's eating good food, or daddy's going to skip the cake this time around because he cares about his body and he wants to take good care of it. Daddy's active because he wants to play with us and he wants to make sure that he's capable of protecting us. So really, when we talk about setting the standard, again, it all comes down to that self-leadership piece. They're when we lead well, and when I say lead well, I mean lead ourselves well. It overflows into all other areas of life. People see it, our families see it, our kids see it, our wives see it, our community see it, and they start to flock to that because they can see that you're a man with a plan and you're a man that's on a mission and that you are consistent in doing what you say that you're going to do.
Well, we've talked about the legacy for our kids, but I'm curious, how do you and your wife, intentionally cultivate strength and unity at home as partners, right? Because the kids, they're looking up to dad and mom, not just the dad.
Yeah, 100%. So the best thing that you can do for your kids is to love your wife well. So that's always where it starts is, cultivating a good godly marriage and having God in the center of your home and in the center of your marriage. And what I mean by that is you're just constantly turning to him. You're praying with your family, you're praying before meals, you're in the word daily, your kids see that. It's really more about what we do on a day-to-day basis that our kids see and that our kids witness than it is about what we sit down and teach them, because while the teaching is important, and I'm not saying it's not, like there's certainly room for that, but when your kids see you reading your Bible daily, or they're listening to praise and worship music with you, or they see mom and dad handling a disagreement well, and they see mom and dad loving each other well, like that's automatically going to bring up questions, and then that automatically is going to provide those teaching moments. So it's really just about how you live day in and day out, and how you love your wife well, and how you make sure that your marriage is godly and your marriage is keeping God at the center.
What's one lesson your children have taught you about leadership or humility?
Mm. There's a
Yeah.
lot of those. Leadership would be, they've just taught me how to be more patient. That's probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, from my kids, because we get in kind of this fast paced mode, whether it's work or relationships or, whatever it looks like. And we forget that our kids oftentimes are experiencing things for the first time. So being
Yeah.
able to kind of watch them experience those things, and being patient with them and taking the time to, kind of go through and teach them how to do stuff versus, you just taking over all the time. Um, Patience would be probably one of the most biblical qualities that my kids have taught me, and also one of the best leadership qualities that my kids have taught me.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing that. Um, this episode is centered around the International Men's Day. What does International Men's Day mean to you?
Man, it's just another one of those days where I can reflect on God's good design. I'm a firm believer that God made men and women different. They're equal in worth and value. They're just different in, um, they just have different qualities. God made women really good at some things. He made men really good at some things. And I think we've gone so far, especially in Western culture, where we've tried to make men and women the same, and that's just
Yeah,
not God's design. God did not design men and women the same. He made us equal in worth and value, but different in authority, different in characteristics, and um, so it's just kind of a celebration of, like, God made all things good and his design is perfect, and we need to continue to lean into that and try to become more and more of what he designed us to be.
yeah. If you could speak to men around the world today, what message would you share with them?
I would say take responsibility for where you are in life, take responsibility for your day to day actions, and make sure that you are setting the example and setting the standard for your kids and for your family. I think one of the biggest temptations for men now is just to live in passivity and comfort. And that's just not good for us. It's not good for our kids. It's not good for our families. It's not good for our communities. It's good to be a man. God made you that way, and you need to lean into the qualities that He gave you that make you a man.
Well, and then how can men celebrate this day not just as a holiday, but as a reminder of their divine calling?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say kind of what we started the episode off with is, taking an inventory of where you are in life, taking responsibility for where you are in life, and starting to ask yourself the question of, why do you do the things that you do? Are they benefiting you? Are they, taking away from you? Is, like, how you spend your time. Are you spending it well? Are you just wasting it? I think just taking inventory of where you are, and then starting to, if you see shortcomings, starting to build small action steps to move in the right direction.
Yeah, and the last and final question would be, if your kids could remember one lesson from you, what lesson do you think that would be?
I would hope it would be the lesson of following Jesus. and giving your life to him and living in obedience to him. That's the biggest thing I want my kids to see in me, and that's the biggest thing that I want them to come away with.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much. Where can listeners learn more about the work you do and also connect with you?
Yeah, so social media is probably the best place. Facebook is at Sean McManus. Instagram and TikTok is at the Sean McManus, and then X is at the Sean McManus as well. So any of those platforms, pretty active on there. Happy to talk. Happy to help guide you in the direction that you need to go. Happy to give you some next steps. Just reach out. Happy to help.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Sean. It's been an absolute delight chatting with you, and thank you for just sharing what it means to be a man.
Absolutely, wisdom. Thank you for having me. It was good to be here with your audience, and I hope everybody got something out of today.
That's it for today's episode of the Observe Day podcast. Thank you for spending your time with us as we explore today's observance. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share it with a friend who'd love to celebrate life special days too. Don't forget to join the newsletter at observeday.com/join for more observance stories, tips, and updates. Until next time, keep finding meaning in every day.